And so you don't have to be the most talented person. You don't have to be the most educated person. But you do have to be tenacious and persistent enough to be able to reach those goals. And that little voice that's in your head that's telling you to keep going. Because the moment that you stop is probably the moment that you're about to be successful. And I've just always kept going.
Welcome back to another episode of The Root of All Success. I'm your host, the real Jason Duncan, and sitting just to my right is Ali Hemyari. If you're a longtime listener to the podcast or watcher on YouTube, or now we have the videos on Spotify, by the way. So if you listen on Spotify, go into the app and you can actually watch the video right there in Spotify too. It's kind of cool. But you'll remember that this guy, Ali, was episode number 18. He was one of my early guests back in 2021. And since then, Ali and I have become better friends. We knew each other, but not well. We've become better friends. He actually spoke at my mastermind retreat in Mexico last year. So glad that he did that. And now we're here on location at Nashville K9 in Franklin, Tennessee, just south of Nashville, at his amazing dog training facility where he took this building and turned it into, well, you can't really see it all, but it is phenomenal. So if you like dogs, or you're in the Middle Tennessee area and you want to get your dog trained, come check out Nashville K9. The facility here is absolutely amazing. What you can't see behind the cameras is there's an entire mock-up of a living room, a bedroom, a kitchen, places that dogs need to understand how to navigate. And then behind that are these training open pens where they train the dogs. And I've been watching them get trained all day long. So big thanks to Ali and Nashville K9 folks for letting us be here to record. So Ali, welcome back to the show, man.
Yeah, thank you. Glad to be here. It's an honor.
Well, you're an awesome guy, man. I tell people when I talk about how I met you the first time, and I know I've said this to you, probably said it on the first show that we had back 4 years ago, is that we were at I think it was Accelerant at the time, was a business program at Bridgestone Arena. It was a breakfast. It was the first one I ever went to, and all I knew is all these high-level business people. That's all I knew, and we're having this business breakfast, and some big-name person was going to be speaking. And I'm walking in for the first time, walking around through the sea of people, and then I see you coming at me with the dog on a leash. I'm like, who let a dog walker in here? What is this? and then I said, well, he's not a dog walker, he's a dog trainer. I'm like, okay, same thing. Because I had no idea. I didn't know what that was. But you have built an empire, dog training, started there. So now you're a pilot, you're a sniper, canine police, SWAT canine expert, and you run this place. What drives you to be able to do all of that? And I know we had lunch earlier, you're talking about another acquisition you're looking at. I mean, that's a lot of drive to do that. What drives you to do all this?
You know, part of it was when I grew up, we grew up pretty poor. And so I know where I came from and I know where I don't want to go back to. That's the main driving force. But a lot of what I do is synonymous with the business as well. So in order for us to be able to sell police dogs or train police dogs for departments, then we have to be in law enforcement to do that, because how else am I going to have access legally to explosives like Sentex, C4, or narcotics like heroin to be able to train those dogs for them? And then how would I know what a police officer goes through without becoming one myself? So that's how I got into the law enforcement world. Obviously, getting into training SWAT dogs, I had to go through SWAT school. And so I had to understand what SWAT operators were going through. And there's a couple fun ones like sniper school that I just did because I wanted to do it. And it has made me an incredible hunter. I can take out a deer from a pretty good distance now. As it relates to aviation, there was a reason why we got into aviation. And when I first became a pilot, I was able to talk to people on the airfields that I was landing at. And these were typically higher net worth people. And I could build relationships with them just in landing, getting a cup of coffee at the FBO, and getting to know somebody who's flying a unique plane, and parlay that into them becoming a client for Nashville K9. And as we grew exponentially over the years, we needed a way to get dogs back from Europe back to Nashville. And one of the problems at the time with the Nashville airport was that it wasn't large enough to bring in international flights from Europe. So you'd have to fly into Charlotte, New York, Detroit, Atlanta, and then bring the dogs from there back into Nashville, except the transition from a much larger plane, say a 747, to a gum stick plane wouldn't work. The dogs wouldn't fit on that plane. So as a problem-solving measure, that's how we got into private aviation. And we acquired an airplane. We were starting to be able to bring dogs back and forth and became a partner with the company. And that ended up being an avenue to recycle a lot of our clients between the businesses as well. And because my partner in that industry also has the same clients, and we refer back and forth. And so a lot of it was organic. We were also looking for opportunities, and that's how we got into it.
So you say you grew up quite poor. Where did you grow up?
So I grew up Dallas, LA, and Nashville. Nashville, I spent basically from third grade, half of third grade on. I went to high school at Hume Fogg. I had two very loving and supportive parents. We just really didn't have a lot of money. And it kills me to tell this story because I saw the pain on my mom's face when I brought it up over Christmas. But there were Christmases where we didn't have a Christmas tree, and my mom would string up lights on the wall in the shape of a Christmas tree with thumbtacks and put our much needed presents like socks or underwear and all the things that kids hate nowadays. And we probably hated back then too, but there were necessities and we needed them. And she would just place those against the wall. And so we were living in about a 940 square foot apartment. There was 2 bedrooms, a bathroom in the middle. It was not uncommon while somebody was taking a shower, somebody was using the restroom. Lots of days with sardines and rice. It's just a different type of upbringing. And so I know where I came from, and that has been probably the main source of drive to never have to go back to that. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with living like that. It just, as I grew older, I started identifying opportunities to be able to live a little bit of better quality of life, both for myself and for my family.
So you have a Hemyari family of companies now. How many companies are part of that portfolio?
There are 10 right now in that portfolio, and we're right now in mid-acquisition for an 11th.
Nice. And so the Hemyari family of companies versus the Hemyari family growing up, quite a bit different net worth, huh?
Yeah, very, very different. My father passed away when I was 17. I think that he has been an angel on my shoulder as I've grown up, and I think that there's been some doors opened both by God and by him just watching out, and I think that has also helped along the way. At least that's how I believe it.
Yeah, that's great. So I think a lot of people, not everybody, a lot of people like dogs. They either want to adopt a dog or they have a dog. When was it that you knew that you were going to build your life around training dogs?
No, I fell into it on accident. I was running an advertising company, and that company took me into New England, where I was training dogs as a hobby. When I moved back to Nashville, I sold out to a business partner of mine, started working as a pre-contract financial advisor for AXA. And I was a suit by all means. I just loved training dogs on the side. I was going to different dog trainers. I was asking them, hey, can you train me? They were reluctant to train me because they thought I was going to become their competition. But at the time, I had no interest of doing that. I was a suit. I was dedicated to finance at that moment. And so I started my own working dog club, and it attracted a lot of Metro police officers. And after, go grab a bite to eat, sometimes dinner. And a few weeks in, a lot of the club members would say, hey, if you stay after for 10 minutes, I'll buy you dinner. Well, a few dinners later, the light bulb went off and said, oh man, I could sell this for money. And so that was the birth of Nashville K9. So that was in 1995. And we opened Nashville K9 strictly for police dogs, executive protection dogs, and search and rescue. And then in 2007, 2008, the banking market got hit. Everybody, including municipalities, lost budgeting. And it was at that moment I decided, why don't I open this up to the general public? But with my experience in banking, I really wanted to target higher net worth people. Because what I knew at the time was that higher net worth people had some resistance to economic shifts. And I needed to be resistant to recessions. And so I spent about 4 years penetrating the music industry. I was the guy that was walking a dog up and down Music Row while people were handing out CDs back then. It took about 4 years to penetrate. And then finally, I got a look by a manager. And the thing about the music industry is when you do a really good job for demanding people, they will tell all their friends. And our biggest break back then was Kelly Clarkson. And so she was awesome. She's still a great human to this day. But that has led us into a lot more opportunities within the music industry. And it's funny because I just remember being out there in the rain, in 95-degree weather in the sun, walking up and down Music Row, just training a dog and waiting for people to say, "What are you doing out here?" "I'm just training a dog. I'm a dog trainer." And that's how word got out. So
did you ever imagine that your dog training for money would turn into this?
I always knew in the back of my mind that I could make something bigger and better than everybody else. I always knew it. And one thing about my personality is I'm very persistent. And I think that the persistence really pays off. When you're persevering towards this goal that you have in your head, and that dream's going to happen one day. And so we've been blessed. We've been fortunate with really good clients, really good mentors surrounding us, really good people all the way around. And I say that there were a lot of sleepless nights. There were a lot of frustrations along the way, a lot of sacrifice. Doing police work just to be able to better your business is a lot of sacrifice. And but it's been a great journey so far.
So most dog trainers, I would say, are not millionaires. They are single shingle people that are doing it out of the love of what they like doing, but they don't have the ability to turn that into a dog training business. They're simply a practitioner. What do you think set you apart from all those other people?
So prior to becoming a business in dog training, I was an entrepreneur in college, and I started several businesses, advertising companies. I sold exotic cars. And so the bug was inside of me to grow something bigger. One of the things I learned at a really young age is the title of my book, Discipline. And with discipline, you can build habits. And that's probably the most important thing. Aligning your day with goals, positive affirmations, and really being intentional to accomplish what you're setting out to do every single day is what gets you to that point. And so you don't have to be the most talented person. You don't have to be the most educated person. But you do have to be tenacious and persistent enough to be able to reach those goals. And that little voice that's in your head that's telling you to keep going, keep going. Because the moment that you stop is probably the moment that you're about to be successful. And I've just always kept going.
So the book, let's talk about the book for a second.
Sure.
It's called Discipline, What It Really Takes to Build a Seven-Figure Business. It is a really good read, easy read. I read this on an airplane trip from Mexico back to Nashville.
That's right.
He brought them to our retreat last year and gave them to everybody, and I read the whole book on the flight back. It's a very good read. What's the biggest myth about discipline that people need to break, that people think about discipline?
I think the biggest myth as it relates to financial success is that it was overnight. We live in an impatient society, right? America is built around impatience. Right now, across from our facility, there's a Publix. You can zip on over there with your car, open the trunk, some fairy comes and deposits groceries, close the trunk, you go home. You did not even have to get out of the vehicle. Or even better, somebody will deliver it to your door using Instacart or some of these grocery delivery services. That mindset, while it's convenient, is basically contradictory to being successful, right? Because success requires grit, determination, perseverance, tenacity, and keeping your eye on the prize the whole duration of the way. And so when I think about financial success, I definitely see the analogy between people that are successful in other fields, like say the Olympians. They are doing what they don't want to do daily. You think Michael Phelps became a gold medal Olympian by shortcutting? Surely there were days that he was like, I don't want to swim 5,000 laps, but I have to because somebody is going to be bigger, stronger, and a better swimmer than me. And he pushed and he pushed and he pushed. And that's what it takes to have that mindset of a gold medal Olympian. When you're in business, you got to activate your warrior mindset. I am a warrior and I need to keep my eye on the prize. And if the goal is that I need to double my revenue for this next year, let me map out something that I can do that. And what happens if you fall short? Maybe you increase your revenue by 1/3. That's still a huge win, right? And so I think as it relates to discipline, you got to start off by small things that are easy wins for you. They say, how do you eat the elephant? You take one bite at a time. You want to get in shape, for example. Walk to your mailbox. Walk back home. Then start walking down the block. Walk back home. And little by little build up that stamina. Building business acumen is very similar. The things that you don't know, go make yourself good at. You suck at sales, it's probably the most important part of business. I would encourage you to go pick up some self-help books, start role-playing with yourself, go attend conferences. Get a coach. If you are having trouble with the financial part of your business, go seek a friend who might be an accountant that can break it down for you real easy. Hey, you make X amount, you spend X amount, this is what you have left. And that's the part where the successful people are very good at using resources and leveraging those resources to their benefit, even if that means by picking up books and reading for themselves, of gaining knowledge. And that's really the separator. You ever read that book by Malcolm Gladwell, The Outliers?
Good book.
Yeah, what makes people outliers, right? There's J.J. Watt said, somebody's got to sit on the curb and clap as the stars walk by. There's something to that. So for me, being in this industry, I didn't want to just be a normal dog trainer. I didn't want to just have a nice livelihood. I wanted to set the bar for every other dog trainer, not just in Tennessee, but across the nation. And we've done that. We built a multi-million-dollar business, the $10 million facility located in the Cool Springs area of Franklin. We sell high-end dogs to people all across the country. We train between 300 to 1,000 dogs a year. And so when you walk in the facility, as you saw today, it doesn't smell like dog in here. It's very clean, it's very pristine, and all of that is to set the bar for everybody else who wants to compete with the brand of Nashville K9. And I think about being an outlier and how do I set the trend for everybody else.
So you built 10 companies from scratch, and by all accounts, they're all very successful. What would you say is the biggest personal sacrifice you had to make along that way?
I would say the biggest personal sacrifice when I was younger was probably to my own mental health by driving so hard, and physical too. After I got married, I have a great wife who's been very supportive, but early on in the marriage, there was a lot of sacrifice of building businesses in lieu of being the best husband she could have had. And it came to a point in my life where I had so many ultra high net worth clients that had, $80, $90 million jets, were traveling the world, and they would show up here and they would be complaining that their kids are seeing psychiatrists or psychologists. I'm talking about between ages of 7 to 12, 7 to 13. And I thought to myself at that moment, I do not want to be one of those people. Now, America is the greatest country in the world because we can pursue happiness. And so superficial happiness wasn't the pursuit I wanted to go after. And while I've made a lot of sacrifices, when I had my children, I really started tapering back. So every day I have a hard stop at 2 o'clock. I run my kids to different sports and things like that we do, and being more mindful. And I'm not saying that after the kids go to bed, I'm not on the computer sending out some emails or playing some follow-up calls. And I'm not saying that every once in a while there aren't some calls that come through that interrupt that time. But being mindful of being present has been one of the biggest learning processes about sacrifice.
So you're a certified SWAT operator and a sniper instructor. That's rare air, especially for a civilian. So what is it about, or what role has tactical training played in your entrepreneurial mindset?
Well, it's a good question. So to qualify, I'm a SWAT operator and a sniper and a firearms instructor. Not a sniper instructor, but a firearms instructor. Going through SWAT school, we started with 30 guys. At the end of SWAT school, we finished with, I want to say it was 11 or 12. It's a week-long school at Tennessee Law Enforcement Training Academy. It was pretty brutal. We started off in the afternoon on a Friday. I remember we went straight to Chow Hall. We ate dinner. We immediately went out, started doing physical exercises, and that's where you just saw everybody start vomiting. And that was the beginning of the week of hell. It took me about 3 days into that week while people were ringing the bell and dropping out to understand that what they're trying to prepare you for is that you are the 911 for police officers. So there are going to be days that you might be on a scene for 36 hours straight, deprived of sleep, deprived of quality food and nutrients that you might need, and you need to be able to go function at a high level. And so the opportunity to go to SWAT was great. I learned a lot in that short amount of time about resilience and strength and fortitude, and why people had it and why people didn't. And so that was really for a selfish benefit to me. It was to better my career in police work. But ultimately, I wanted to be able to use SWAT dogs and K9 train with SWAT dogs. And so I had some discovery processes in that school to understand that. But what you saw at the end of that school is who didn't ring the bell and who made it through. I'll give you a story. There was a gentleman that was in our group. Most of us were probably 28 to 40 years of age. That was the average age group. But there was a gentleman in there that was probably 55 years of age. The second to last day of the week-long school, his body was kind of giving out on him. And the instructors told him, take his assault rifle, his AR-15, and just hold it over his head. And he had to do that in 5 to 10 minute increments to take a rest for 3 minutes in between. And that was for like almost 2 hours long. Which, that's a pretty heavy gun when you're holding it over your head for 5 to 10 minutes stints. And at the end, despite his inability to complete the rest of the tasks that we had to, they still graduated him. And some of the guys asked why, and they said because he never gave up. And so that mentality of never giving up, no matter what, is really what made him a SWAT operator. And it's a good lesson to learn in life with discipline and just anything you're trying to achieve to your personal success is the relentless pursuit of your goal and your dream to make it happen. No matter what noise is coming along the way, no matter what fodder is firing at you, just keeping your eye on that prize and driving.
You've worn a badge. Actually, you still do. You still volunteer a lot of pro bono work. You've done 15 years pro bono work in law enforcement. You've trained police canines. You've run businesses. You've donated hundreds of hours of your time in service of others. What's one time that you truly hit a wall and you had to push through it?
So I'll give you a story of a gentleman that was a competing dog trainer. He was the lead dog trainer for a very large police department in the greater Nashville area. He was their judge. He was their certified trainer. And he had a business on the side also training police dogs and clearly viewed me as a threat. Enough to the point where it was harassing of what he did to me. I'd get random traffic stops. At the time, we had a 12-acre training field in Bellevue, right next to where the old Bellevue Mall was. It's currently Bellevue 1, where the Ford Ice Center is right now. It used to be our training field. and he would have his buddy in the aviation unit run the helicopter 500 feet above ground and run our dogs off the field. It was constant. It was really troubling. Got to the point where every deal I had set up with local agencies, he would come in and do everything he could to destroy those deals, pretty successfully. And there was a point in my life where I thought, should I even pursue selling police dogs to police departments? Undoubtedly, my dogs were trained way better, undoubtedly, because this is what I was devoting all my time to, whereas he was still doing police work. And I thought to myself, well, where's the brotherhood in law enforcement? Here he is, a fellow officer, throwing me under the bus every single opportunity he could. And I started getting wise. I was filming the helicopter over us. I was documenting all the stops and all those kind of things. And one of that department's police chiefs was a client of mine. And I took him, back then, I took him the CD of the pictures, of the videos, and I said, if you don't fix this, I'm going to go to the media. Now, certainly there was precedent for lawsuits and stuff like that, but the government can defend itself because it's using taxpayer money and taxpayer resources to provide legal counsel. So in a sense, I would have been funding the lawsuit defense while I'm pursuing it. So this was a more diplomatic way for me to go to the chief and say, fix it. Within a week after that meeting, that gentleman that was in the helicopter was assigned to a job that he didn't like, who he eventually retired from. And the other gentleman who has given me a lot of hard time retired. And it didn't stop there. They had a buddy that ended up going to a greater state agency and tried to do the same thing over there to me. And eventually he ended up pigeonholing himself and got canned from that agency too. But it's an example of all the adversity. You know, when we think about being a business owner, we really think about how do we go and close the deal? How do we sell to people? How do we build relationships? How do we maneuver through owning a business? And the lack of consideration sometimes goes to the competitors. And how are the competitors going to play dirty? And are you going to allow that to get you down, or are you going to face that adversity head on and just keep plugging away? It got to the point where, you know, they're in the rearview mirror a long way down. They might be thinking that they're still my competition, but they're not. They're not anywhere close. And so that was one of those examples. And that lasted for years, Jason.
Wow.
I'm talking about from probably 2007 through 2014 or 2015.
Wow. And it just faded?
Yeah, well, it eventually, they just couldn't catch up anymore, right? And then it got to the point for us where our reputation was so big, it didn't matter how much he came and tried to poo-poo us. The department still would come to us, they still wanted to see our dogs, and they still wanted to buy. And imagine building a reputation so powerful that it doesn't matter you got a bunch of haters out there, that everybody's like, I'm going to put that noise aside, and we're still going to go check it out for ourselves.
So you also have waded into the technology space with a couple of different businesses in the tech space. Tell me a little bit about those companies and what you're doing and how that's a competitive advantage for you.
So we first got into technology with Nashville K9 University. It was our online dog training website. And we had a film crew follow us for almost 3 years. We produced a website and opened it up to the general public. At the time, things like this didn't exist. Masterclass wasn't around. So we were at the forefront of dog training. We then ran Nashville K9 University as a test to see if people were interested in doing more of a one-on-one feel through educational videos for dogs. And if so, we would then pursue a different company name, which it worked. We opened Coach Fido. And Coach Fido is now a global company. It's got over 600 videos on it. We have trainers that are from all around the world, even as far as Germany, that are on that platform. And that's how we got into the tech space. And I really started understanding, well, if these people are buying subscriptions, once I've put in the initial heavy lift financially, I can recover those monies through those subscriptions. Well, all along the way, we were getting frustrated with all the different types of dog software, dog kennel software, management software, credit card softwares, any sort of point of sale system that had to do with pet resorts and dog management. They were created by geeks outside the industry, and we're getting constantly cold called by those people saying, hey, use our software. And quite frankly, they were all ineffective. And so I got so tired of it, I said, I'm going to go create my own. And so we began Podentity, which is our own online kennel management software that appeals to veterinarians, pet resorts, dog trainers. And it was created by us, people in the industry that know exactly what is going on day to day with keeping dogs healthy, and their logs, their training logs, their watering logs, their using the restroom logs, all of that in one simple, easy to use software, both web-based and on the telephone. And at one point, I had so much money wrapped up into the development of this software, I thought to myself, how the heck am I ever going to recover these monies by doing $200 a month subscription for a kennel? $2,400 a year, by the time I go and pitch somebody, I've already eaten up that $2,400. And so a buddy of mine owned a credit card gateway. And there's 4 large gateways in North America. But the gateway is basically where when you swipe your card at a terminal, at a restaurant, for example, it sends all that information to the gateway. The gateway then sends it through the interchange, which is kind of like a highway. It goes to the bank, Chase, Amex, whoever it may be. Bank of America says the money's good, sends it back down through the interchange to the gateway, which then sends it to the terminal all in nanoseconds. He said, why don't you start processing cards, and you can make a little bit of yield spread on every card that you process. And so we ran the numbers. We found that it was financially viable. And so the software launches mid-May of 2025 at no charge to anybody. They just have to process their cards through us. And then I was driving that pretty hard. Okay, this is great. I know how we can recover the monies. I've ran the numbers. And one day I was in a clear bra facility where they were tinting the vehicle and applying paint protection film to the vehicle. And the gentleman was supposed to have been done on a Tuesday. He pushed me to Wednesday, to Thursday, to Friday. Friday, he's like, be here by 2 o'clock. It's going to be ready. I get there at 3 o'clock. It's still not ready. From 3 to 8 o'clock, he's still working on the car while I'm standing there feeling hostage. And I'm seething. I'm so mad. I'm standing against that wall, watching him work, being like, you told me Tuesday, and now it's Friday, and now it's the end of the night, and I'm missing out time with my family. And I thought to myself, well, being angry is not going to be effective or help or productive in this situation. So I make small talk with him. Who are you using to process your credit cards? Oh, well, I'm using our bank. And I said, okay, well, what's your bank charging you? He's like, 2.8%. I said, okay, it's probably not a bad deal, but would you mind? I have a business that also looks at credit card processing. And that was only because I used it in Podentity that the light bulb went off while I'm standing there in that moment of frustration. How do I recover some of my time standing here? And so we pick them up as one of our first clients. And we drop them down to 2.1 or 2.2% from his 2.8. So we saved him a little over half of a basis point. He's happy. He gets to apply that revenue or that savings of money to another employee or vacation or whatever he's doing with it. And that started the process of our Approach 17 credit card processing. And now we help businesses all across the nation. It's been a very effective way of getting into technology that I stumbled into strictly because I had a main issue that I could not solve with our software being on the standard subscription model of every month payment.
So as an entrepreneur with multiple companies, I want you to speak to entrepreneurs who are listening to this show right now that have the opportunity to go from what they're doing, their core business, whatever the core business is, like yours was dog training for a long time. That was the only thing you were doing.
Right.
When should they say, okay, now I can go do something else, like you took that opportunity with credit card processing? Do you have rules of thumb for your advice on how entrepreneurs should do that?
I do. I want to be careful with the encouragement of that to entrepreneurs is that don't go and be the master of 20 trades right at the beginning. You're not going to be effective at that. Once you get to the point where you're working on the business and not in the business, then you can start dabbling in other opportunities that you see. But you have to master your business first, and you have to have the ability to use what Jason talks about all the time in the Exeter Club, that once you can detach yourself from working inside the business, that's when you can start exploring the other opportunities.
So faith has played a big part of your life and your business, but I would like to hear from you specifically, how has your faith in God and we actually talked a little bit about this tiny bit at lunch today,
right.
But how has that affected or guided your business decisions?
I think that having faith in God is probably the most important. It is the most important thing in life. There's going to be times where you feel alone on an island by yourself, especially as an entrepreneur. People don't understand what entrepreneurs go through, and you need backup. And sometimes talking to your spouse is not enough. They don't understand what you're going through if they're not an entrepreneur. And the reliance on God to help along the way, to have somebody to talk to have somebody to guide you, to pray and say, if this is the way it's supposed to be, then make it happen, please. And if it's not, then please close that door. And sometimes opportunities will come knocking without you even knowing it. And I think a lot of that's godly. I will tell you, one of the experiences I had was when I was a student pilot learning to fly an airplane. Two different instances. I remember flying into a different airport. I was flying into Sparta, Tennessee, to do, as a student pilot, you have to do cross countries by yourself and be able to land and take off and talk to whoever you need to and come back. And I remember you're supposed to land, do a full stop, and then take back off. And I remember taking back off, and I still had my flaps down. And this was like a 1964 Piper Cherokee. This is an old plane with an old engine. And I was well below stall speed. Like, there's no reason why when I got up to 600 or 700 feet that the plane shouldn't have just fallen out of the sky and I should have just died. And at that moment, I had this epiphany, oh man, my flaps are down. I got to bring them back up. And I feel like that was a godly moment for me. I remember another time I was going to fly into a rainstorm. And I had a gentleman sitting next to me. It's like, hey, we should probably go around that storm. I'm like, oh no, the map says go this way, and the instructor told me to go this way, and I can't go around that storm because that's going to mess up my trajectory. And this is well before we had the advancements of GPS like we do now. And he's like, no, I think we should go the 10 or 12 miles around the storm. And thank God that we did, because I probably would have just got hit by lightning, crashed into the side of a hill. Those are those moments where they may not be measurable immediately, but they're definitely a memento to you moving forward of, hey, this is something to remember along the way, that God was with you. And landing after that and saying, okay, there was definitely a godly moment. There's a lot of things like that in police work too. I can tell you, being on the side of the highway, drawing your firearm, not knowing what you're getting into. There's a lot of those kind of moments too. But having God have your back is the only way that you're going to be able to sail. And if you don't have that, then it's seemingly that you are too arrogant to acknowledge that there is a supreme being that is helping you. Yeah. And you are not that great without that supreme being.
That's true. All right, so the podcast is called The Root of All Success. So what is your one key to success? If you had to boil it down to one thing that's unlocked success for you.
I would say discipline.
Hence the book.
The book is it.
Discipline. All right. So how do you personally define the word success?
Success means to dream or picture up a goal and fight through any type of adversity to get to it. And that doesn't have to be financial. It doesn't have to be even the example I gave earlier with Michael Phelps. What if your goal, Jason, was that you wanted to go buy a Rolex? What would it take for you to get there to buy the Rolex? See, the typical mindset, if we're going to piggyback off of like a Robert Kiyosaki book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, is, oh, I can't get there. But to be successful, you're going to always ask yourself, how can I get there? How can I go buy that watch? I can give you a Rolex, right? And you'll be like, wow, that guy's the nicest guy. He gave me this Rolex, even if it's an inexpensive one. Or you can go and work however many hours it takes you to earn that Rolex. And one way is going to mean more to you than the other one, right? So when I define success, I think about what was the goal? How did you get there? Was it measurable? And if you can measure it along the way and you can get to your goal, especially as an entrepreneur or even any business owner, you're going to need to have some wins along the way. And whatever that goal for you is, then have that for yourself. It could be a family vacation, be whatever it may be.
Based on that definition, do you consider yourself successful?
I think that I am successful in anything I put my mind to. And I genuinely believe that. There's not anything that is going to hold me back. I wrote a book, and as it relates to book writing, it was a lot more difficult for me than other people. And I'm almost finished with my second book now, teaming up with Honore Corder, a fellow author who helped me publish this book. And I'm sure she could come on the show and attest that it is a lot more difficult for me, but it's really the battle of the will, right? And the persistence. And so, I think that just being comfortable, being uncomfortable.
Yeah. All right. So you ready for some high energy rapid fire questions?
Let's do it.
All right, let's do this. So hardest physical challenge you've ever completed? Triathlon, SWAT school, or something else?
I would say completing triathlons were my hardest.
One dog training myth you wish would disappear forever?
Sleeping in bed is a big no-no, contrary to what all the experts are telling you. It creates separation anxiety. Separation anxiety can then manifest over a period of time, where the only way you're going to be able to fix that is by having veterinary intervention. So stop sleeping in bed with your dogs. They're not humans. The irony of that is that so many parents will put their babies on the second floor of their house, allow them to cry that method, but they won't give up their little dog sleeping in bed with them. It's crazy.
If you could fly helicopters or a fixed wing for the rest of your life, only one, which one would you choose and why?
Helicopters all day. You know, you've seen my license plate on my car, right, Jason?
I don't think I have.
It says real pilots fly helicopters.
Ah, okay.
Now, I fly airplanes too, and they're more practical for mission-based. You know, you want to go from here to Dallas or here to Atlanta or whatever it may be. But helicopters those are some real pilots.
All right. Biggest leadership lesson you've learned from training dogs that applies to humans?
I think that when you learn the patience in conditioning an animal, you will certainly learn to have patience when you are interacting with people of different personalities, backgrounds, and expertise as well.
Ali, thank you for coming back on the show. Thank you for letting me do it here at your beautiful location. This is really a treat, because if you've never been into a professional dog training facility, then you won't know what to compare it to. But whatever I thought one might look like, this is nothing like it. You have developed the Ritz-Carlton experience for dogs here, and so congratulations on that. How can people get in touch with you?
Go to our website, NashvilleK9.com. You can look us up on the web. We'd love to have you. You're welcome to come take a tour of the facility. We have a full Matterport tour on our website as well, so for all the viewers, they can drag and click the mouse and see what it's like virtually.
Yeah, go check that out. And also pick up a copy of the book, Discipline, What It Really Takes to Build a Seven-Figure Business. Easy, quick read, very good. And he's got a new book that's going to be coming out later this year. Title's not been determined yet, so we can't really promote it. But be on the lookout for Ali Hemyari. Ali, thanks again for being here, man. I appreciate it.
It was an honor. Thank you for always having me on, Jason.
Yeah,
Really
thank you,
means a
man.
lot.
All right, so it's that time of the show where I do JD's public service rants. It's the time when I call out something that I really shouldn't have to call out, but evidently I do. So if this, what I'm about to talk about, applies to you, then consider yourself put on notice. So what I want to talk about is misplaced items around the house. Now, hear me out. You go look for kitchen scissors. Should be in the kitchen drawer, right? I mean, that's what they're called, kitchen scissors. But you go look in the kitchen scissor drawer and they're nowhere to be found. And then sometime 6 weeks later, you're in the garage under a pile of old tools. There's the kitchen scissors. Or what about car keys? What about car keys? You ever gone to look for your car keys, can't find them anywhere? So my rant is for you people who don't put crap back where it goes. How about just putting stuff where it goes? Don't put it down, put it away. Don't put it down, put it away. Say it with me. Don't put it down, put it away. All right, that's it for JD's public service rant for today. If you like that one and you got another idea for one, please send me an email. I'd love to hear what you have to say, and I'll be happy to bring it to the world in this segment of the podcast. Thanks again to Ali for letting me use his facility and for being on the show today. Great entrepreneur. If you are in the Nashville area and you have a dog, or you're thinking about getting a dog and you want training, go check out Nashville K9. Or if you don't have dogs, but you just like them, you don't want a dog, come here and check this place out. It's a really cool place. You're gonna love it. Thank you for listening to the show. Thank you for watching, whether it's on YouTube, Spotify, wherever you watch it. You can also go to therootofallsuccess.com and check out show notes. All our past episodes. This is episode number 304. So we've been doing this a long time, so go check out previous episodes. And he was also episode number 18. But as always, I am the real Jason Duncan, and Jesus is king.
Attention business owners. Attention business owners. Feeling burnout from running your business? Uncertain if you're nearing burnout? Take our free 10-question business burnout test at businessburnouttest.com to discover where you stand. With just 10 quick questions, you'll learn how to immediately begin making changes to regain freedom and success. Cut your daily operations time in half. Improve your quality of life and prepare your business for your future exit without losing revenue or profit. Visit businessburnouttest.com now and take the test. Thank you for listening to another edition of The Root of All Success with the real Jason Duncan. If you've enjoyed this week's episode, visit therootofallsuccess.com to access the show notes and other helpful resources. Follow Jason on social media at The Real Jason Duncan. See you again next time here on The Root of All Success.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.